Hello and welcome to another video. In this one, I'm going to be doing a bit of a discussion topical video, and I want to be talking about the MCU. Now, there's a lot of different opinions on the current state of the MCU out there, and I could easily, fuel the fire of either one of those, but I want to do a little bit of both, give some of my critical reactions to the recent stuff we've gotten from the MCU, but then also give some positive side of things of what they've done so far, and why I'm still excited for the future, and at the end, really, how they can win me back, because I've been not thrilled with some of the recent stuff, but I can still be won back, and I'm still on board for a majority of the projects they're working on. So let's get ready. Let's hop into this discussion. So there are 5 different things I want to kind of break down for where I think we've gotten where we are in the MCU versus where we could be and the improvements that could be made. The first of that is going to be respect the journey so far, and then not every character needs a spin-off, build towards something, slow down, and continue the new saga characters' stories. So those are the 5 topics I kind of want to break down in this video, kicking things off with respect the journey so far. Even with some of its ups and downs, phases 1 through 3 were a really great accomplishment for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It really changed how superhero films are viewed within Hollywood and within our world and pop culture. Each film and phase really built on the last to assemble a team for the Avengers and just give us these characters that we've spent the time with and feel compelled to follow the stories of and just really attached to. And then phase 4, while I think it did have a strong start, since then, it seems to kind of lost its way a little bit. We had She-Hulk, which was kind of a very socially motivated story with a bit of an agenda behind it all. We had Thor: Love and Thunder, which was kind of a too much creative freedom, I think, given to Taika Waititi, and like a much heavier comedic focus that I think kind of took what worked about Thor Ragnarok and just overdid it to an extent. There's still aspects of that movie that I like, Love and Thunder, but I think overall they kind of let him go a little too crazy with it and a little too leaning into the comedic side of things, which I'm fine with for the comedy in the MCU, but it definitely kind of overdid it a little bit for me. And then after that, we have Secret Invasion, which the finale of that show had fans pretty much universally frustrated, and actually this was the first MCU project that I did not finish, be it a movie or a television series. And this was actually the show that really kind of is the inception or the beginning of this idea that I kind of had for this, maybe not even just video, but just this mindset that I've kind of reached the point of with my opinions on the MCU of like, well, I've, liked and disliked some of the things that they've done, but overall I've generally really enjoyed since phase 3 ended. And there's still some stuff that I like and there's stuff that I don't like, but I'm still hopeful for the future. But this was the first project that I was like, I didn't even finish the end of the show because I heard what the finale was doing and I was behind at the time. So I was like, you know what? I don't even care to finish and see where this goes based on what I've heard online. So everyone has a bit of a different opinion on that, but this was the first show that I didn't finish. And then even with that, Ant-Man Quantumania was the first MCU movie that I did not like actively did not like. So I think what the MCU really needs to do is just respect that journey so far, and I'm going to kind of expand on that in the ways that I think they could do that in the future points that I'm going to be talking about in this video, but I just wanted to kind of point out where I'm at with the MCU of what the journey has been so far, where my issues kind of lie with certain series and movies and different projects they're working on. But that is kind of the journey so far that we've gotten, and what I think they need to do is just respect that journey we've taken so far and really lean into that moving forward. So moving forward in this video, we have not every character needs a spinoff. I think this has mostly been an issue with phase 5. Phase 4 didn't have too much of it as they were trying to introduce some new characters with Shang-Chi and other characters like that. But then we had the Echo series, which was more using the Kingpin character to draw people in, at least on the casual fan level, which I will admit I am a casual MCU fan in that I'm not like a huge comic reader. I'm a fan of these movies because of these movies. And so I'm not like as much into the lore of all the comics and the backgrounds behind it of like, oh yeah, that's cool, we're getting a comic adaptation of Echo, like cool. Like for me, that was just like a, why are we doing a spin-off show on the Echo, and why do we feel like we have to bring Kingpin into it just to entice people to check it out? After that, we have the Agatha All Along series, which kind of capitalized on the popularity of a side character in the WandaVision series, which I really enjoyed her character, but then they announced a spin-off show for it, and they do a full-on series and whatnot. And I actually didn't even watch this one because I've heard generally mixed things about it. I have heard somewhat on the more positive side of things in perspective of kind of all of the recent MCU projects we've gotten so far, and some of the better and some of the worse. So I've heard it's kind of more in the middle as far as the series go, but I wasn't interested enough in her character to feel like I wanted to commit to watching an entire series about it. And then lastly, we actually have one that's to come, so I don't want to be prejudiced on this one and judging something before we've gotten a chance to see it, but we have the Ironheart character from Black Panther Wakanda Forever. So this was a character that I enjoyed enough in the movie, but again, just kind of like the Agatha character, where like I enjoy that character and what we've seen of them so far. Do I feel like they need a spin-off series just for them? Not necessarily. So I'm not really anticipating the Ironheart series. I don't want to judge it or prejudge it before I gave it a chance to come out and maybe really impress me and be something good. But I just don't think it was necessary to be its own project. So that's kind of the whole not every character needs a spin-off point that I wanted to make. And then this is where we're going to kind of move into some improvements that I think can be made, and that is build towards something is my next point. So probably my biggest issue with the current MCU is we don't feel like we're actually building towards something. I think at this point, between phases 4 and 5, we've gotten 15 sequel projects, be it movies or TV shows, and then we've gotten 7 new projects / characters that have been introduced. So that is 21 entries or projects in the series since we've had a team-up movie. We haven't had a proper team-up of something like the Avengers since Avengers Endgame. And so in that time, like I said, we've been introduced to 7 new projects and characters. We've had 15 sequels leading up to 21 different projects, which is, at that point, pretty much everything that encompassed the MCU from Iron Man all the way up until like Infinity War, which they had like 3 team-up movies in that point. We haven't seen a single team-up since. Everything's been standalone, isolated, with maybe a character crossing over here and there, like, Daredevil popping up for an episode or 2 of She-Hulk kind of thing. But I do think it's kind of an issue that we have had 21 projects now with not another big team-up since to kind of bookmark something or just have a big stepping stone to remind us that all of these characters share a world together kind of thing. And even despite the introduction of the TV series that we've had within the Marvel Cinematic Universe since WandaVision, we've still had 13 movies since all of that began. And phases 1 through 3 had 4 to 6 films, and then they would do a team-up movie. So pre-Avengers Endgame and the introduction of the TV shows through phases 1 through 3, we would have, I just kind of like looked back through everything we got in phases 1 through 3, and we would have 4 to 6 different films, and then we would do an Avengers team-up movie. So, we had Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, and then we would lead into the Incredible Hulk, and then we'd lead into the Avengers, and then we'd have some more projects, introduce some new characters, give a few sequels in there, and then another team-up movie. And I really liked that structure and progression for the series, where it's introduce some characters, do a team-up movie, follow up on some characters, introduce some new ones here and there, then do a team-up movie. I really like that structure, and I think that's one of the biggest things the MCU can do going forward to really kind of bring us back to really feeling invested in the world and these characters as a whole. Each of those previous phases really progressively built on the previous film with those sequels, and then the current characters that we were familiar with at the time, while also not being afraid to introduce new characters. But along with that, we do move into my next point of slow down. More projects, more connections, more characters are inevitable, but we don't need to require so much homework that's kind of bogged down the MCU stuff lately with all the TV shows, with each new entry in a series within the series, or every just new project that comes out. Like a lot of the kind of conversation right now is around Captain America Brave New World and all the homework that's kind of required, not even required, just recommended, but in some cases required to really appreciate and understand a project. And I think we need to focus less on just all of that stuff and all of that homework required to really keep up on something. Something should kind of work unto itself with a self-contained story, especially if we're not focusing on team-up movies. You maybe watch, something within a series of Captain America 1, 2, 3 before you watch 4 at least, but not requiring so much extra homework on top of that. And one thing I think that could have helped with the homework, I'm not saying we needed an entire reboot moving forward from Avengers Endgame, but Phase 4 should have kind of been a little bit more of a reset, which it was in the beginning. They introduced Shang-Chi, we had the Eternals, and then we still had some, callback stuff with WandaVision and whatnot leading into Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. But I do think there should have been a bit more of a clear, distinct reset from Avengers Endgame, or even, Spider-Man Far From Home, that was kind of that epilogue to the Endgame story before we jumped, or as we jumped into Phase 4 moving forward. And now I think they've kind of realized that, in that they're just constantly calling back to Phase 1 through 3 stuff with new projects. And even before that, with a lot of the Fox stuff, like I love Spider-Man No Way Home, but there's a lot of callback stuff to previous Marvel stuff and even just MCU stuff that we're getting with all of these projects. And I think they really need to do, I would appreciate, I love the callbacks to the stuff and continue to build on what you found. Like I said, respect the past, but at the same time, be willing to go a new direction, introduce a completely new lineup of Avengers and give us a new Avengers team, a young Avengers team, that kind of a thing. I think it could really pay off in the long run to, yes, and show that these characters still exist from previous phases, but really just build that new lineup, that new team, or even just the sub teams and groups throughout, and just build on those characters more. And then lastly, point-wise, I wanted to make here was continue the new saga character stories, and that's kind of a segue off of what I was just talking about. So post-Phase 3, the only newly introduced character or project that we've had a follow-up on since, their introduction in post-Phase 3 was the Ms. Marvel character. Now, there's a little bit of discrepancy here in that you do have Rambo from WandaVision, and you do have technically Agatha all along from WandaVision as well. But we've only gotten Ms. Marvel and then the Marvels to kind of introduce and follow up on that character. Of all the other characters that have been introduced, including Shang-Chi, Eternals, Hawkeye with the new Kate Bishop as the new Hawkeye Moon Knight, She-Hulk, Secret Invasion with the Gaia character, Echo, aside from, kind of getting her own show after being introduced in Hawkeye, we haven't gotten any kind of continuation on those characters and those stories. They're introducing and setting up so many different pieces, but we're not getting any kind of follow through or even just continuation with those. And I feel like that's a real hindrance on these new characters and films that they're doing. Aside from, character drop-ins here and there, we're not getting any kind of crossovers or team-ups to continue building our relationships with those characters. And then unfortunately, even the follow-ups to previously beloved characters haven't really performed well critically or at the box office, with the Black Widow movie that they came out with, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, Thor Love and Thunder, as I've talked about, Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, like I said, the first MCU movie I didn't like, and then with the new Captain America Brave New World, which I haven't seen for myself to have my own opinion on, but performance-wise, the movie's not doing as well as they would have hoped. So all of those things I think can be, there are ways to critically look at what has been done so far since Phase 3, but at the same time, look at the opportunities that are still in place or available that they can take advantage of to really, like I said, win me back and just improve the Marvel Cinematic Universe going forward. So just to kind of wrap up in conclusion and look back again, we have just respecting the journey so far, the world, the characters that we've built, not giving everyone, they're not actually doing everyone, I'm exaggerating here, but feeling like everyone is getting a spin-off just because people like a certain character that pops up in a show. Just structuring those phases and sagas to feel more like they're building towards team-ups and crossovers and stuff like that, to just get us more invested in the story, the world, the characters, that kind of thing. Slow down on the need for homework in each project. Just trust the direction you're taking us in. Don't feel like you need to do all these kind of callbacks and this requirement or request for homework along the way. And then just continuing those stories of the new characters that have been introduced. Give us sequels, give us team ups. Like I said, give us the new Avengers, give us the young Avengers, something like that. We want a roster of characters whose stories we love and feel invested in. And they've done that before, and I really think they can do it again. There's a lot that I'm still excited about in the MCU. We got the new Daredevil series that I'm really enjoying. I'm hoping we can continue to get more integration of the Daredevil, Matt Murdock character into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I would love to see a continuation on Shang-Chi. I actually really did enjoy Eternals. I'd like to see ways they could integrate that again in the future. So, I mean, everything has its ups and downs, but there's room for improvement. There's room for growth. There's always an opportunity to win me back. So I would love to hear your thoughts as well in this in the comments down below. Like I said, I didn't want to lean too heavy into the positive and the negative, just to kind of meet in the middle, be fairly critical of what we've seen so far, but also share what I'm still excited about and the opportunities that we have. So thank you for sticking around to the end of this video. I look forward to seeing your thoughts on this topic in the comments down below. I will see you in the next one.